How's it going, guys? This is Stuart Rao. I'm going to show you a couple pointers for yellowfever.com. We're going to start out right now talking about ground strokes. Ground stroke is a ball that you're going to hit behind the baseline, and the idea is to get it deep in the court on the other side so you can keep the other player at the baseline without having to attack you. Two things that you want to think about when you're hitting a ground stroke is the kind of force that you're putting on the ball. One force is going to be pushing the ball over the net, and the other force is going to be creating friction and brushing up the back side of the ball. So the more friction you have, the more topspin you're going to be able to create. Without that, it's not going to go over the net, and without the force pushing back on it, it's not going to be able to go forward. So what we're going to focus on right now is the grip for your ground stroke, for your forehand ground stroke. It's the only unique grip in tennis in that your forehand is the only stroke you have that has its own grip. Everything else in tennis uses the continental grip. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn our grip over from continental so it's a little bit east. So when we make contact with the ball, our racket face is going to be pointing a little bit forward, and we're going to be able to brush up the back side of the ball and create friction and topspin. Okay, so if I'm hitting a forehand ground stroke, the first thing I want to think about is where are my feet? There's two different stances that we can have. We can have open stance, which is where we're square to the net, or we can have closed stance, where our shoulder is facing away from the net. It doesn't really matter which stance you choose, but what is important is that you're able to use your legs and bend to hit the ball and get underneath it so you can get forward and brush up on the ball. The second thing I want to talk about is where we should be making contact with the ball. You want to be making contact in your strike zone, which basically ranges from the top of your knee to about your shoulder. If you're hitting it up here, that's out of your strike zone. If you're hitting it down here, that's also out of your strike zone. If we're making contact inside the strike zone, you want your racket to be a little bit in front of your body. That helps you brush up the backside of the ball and create the most friction possible in order to get topspin. The second thing you want to think about is what's happening with your racket after you make contact with the ball. If you're starting from below the ball and making contact, but you're finishing right here, there's really nothing that's going to help it go over the net. So we want to make sure that we finish high. If we're finishing over our shoulder every time, that's a sure way to make for certain that we're getting underneath the ball and we're creating topspin, and it's going to pull over the net. If you want to, you can make contact, pull the racket high, and then let it fall back over. The key concept is to have a high point in your stroke and a low point in your stroke, somewhere in the mix. Low point, contact, high point, finish.